Hi, welcome
Hello.
to Fun and Friends. I'm Evelyn.
I'm Sabrina.
And I'm Jasmine.
And welcome to the channel.
Welcome.
Please excuse the towel. We were just doing some swimming and
Yes, as you see.
decided we were going to record, but it's getting kind of chilly, so now I'm using it as a...
Well, I did
Blanket.
college work. They went in the hot tub.
Yeah.
All right. So
This will be a short, quick video for you guys, but we hope you enjoy.
less chatting, more
Reading,
story.
Yeah.
I don't remember what happened last time, so you can do the recap.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I'm doing the reading and the recap?
Well, I mean, you didn't let me sit here and read beforehand. Normally, I reread the whole last chapter at bullet speed, so I can give a
if
recap.
I remember right, they got back to the school and they found out that there were no boys at the school anymore.
Right. No, the boys are on the other side, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
girls versus boys.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Let's get this going.
That was like the quickest recap ever.
Chapter 5.
Chapter
They
5.
almost died, I'm sure, a time or two, because, dramatics, but...
Of course.
Of course.
Chapter 5, The Other School. As she and Sophie sprinted behind Professor Dovey into the mirrored corridor, Agatha tried to find her breath. Professor Dovey was a famous fairy godmother, who always looked out for her. She had to give them answers. "Who are those red hoods?" Agatha asked. "How did the schoolmaster survive?" said Sophie. "Why are the nevers on this side?" said Agatha. "Quiet!" Professor Dovey snapped, erasing her footsteps with a magic wand.
Reminds me of Snape. Professor Snape.
But it's a girl.
I know, but like the attitude, snappiness.
"You don't seem surprised to see us," Agatha whispered.
Severus Snape.
Dumbledore. But her fairy godmother didn't respond as she rushed them into the goods deserted foyer, magically bolting the doors behind them. Only months ago, Sophie had excavated the hall. Oh, it's a roly-poly. I was like, what is that? Only months ago, Sophie had climbed the hall in her witch's revenge on Agatha and Tedros, blasting its stained glass windows, spiral staircases, and marble floors to shards. But now the two friends drew breaths at its redone facade. Are you going to keep him as a pet now?
I am.
What are you going to name him?
What's the name of that roly thing in Raya?
Tuk Tuk.
Tuk Tuk. We'll name him Tuk Tuk.
Tuk Tuk.
Yeah. You guys can meet Tuk Tuk. He's rolled up. Awaken.
Great stone dragon. Where there used to be two pink staircases and two blue, all four staircases were the same royal blue as the castle. Lit by high stained glass windows, the staircase spiraled. Did you throw Tuk Tuk?
He got yeeted.
It's the circle of life. Yeet.
Poor Tuk Tuk.
He's okay. He landed in grass.
Where he belongs.
What if I throw you down that hill? How would you feel?
Yeah, I didn't throw him down the hill. He just landed right there. It was a lob.
Okay.
Lit by high stained glass windows and spiral staircases spiraled up to the dormitory towers, names tattooed on the richly decorated balusters: honor, valor, purity, and charity. Agatha had loathed the prissy princess pink of the Purity and Charity Towers, but seeing them turn to the same color as the Prince Towers gave her an unsettling feeling. Sophie nudged her, and Agatha turned to see her peering curiously at the Legends obelisk in the center of the foyer, a soaring crystal tower blanketed by portrait frames. Inside each of the frames was a painting of a past student, next to a storybook illustration of what the child became upon graduation. But looking up at the gold-framed Evers on the top, who became princesses and queens, the silver-framed ones in the middle, who became helpers and sidekicks, and the bottom rung lot, who became cinder sweeps and servants, and two girls noticed something particular. "Where are the boys?" Sophie said. "For all their portraits have been removed." Agatha swung her head to the honor staircase. "The friends of knights and kings have been replaced by friends of sword-brandishing, chain-mailed princesses." Sophie swiveled to the valor staircase, one decorated with burly hunters and their trusty hounds, now huntresses in hound skins and decidedly female dogs. I like huntresses, though. They're cool. Farrah forever.
Yes.
Yes.
Both girls twirled the letter murals across the walls that once spelled EVER, now spelled GIRL. It is a school for girls, said Agatha, thunderstruck. What happened to good? Why can't we fight the schoolmaster? We can't fight the schoolmaster without boys, cried Sophie. Shh, Professor Duffy hissed, rushing up the Valor staircase. No one must know you're here. As the girls chased her elegant silver-haired bun through the Valor princely blue archers and murals, they gawked at the once virile versions of princes destroying demons and saving helpless princesses, now flaunting different endings. Snow White smashing out of her glass coffin with her fists, Red Riding Hood slitting the wolf's throat, Sleeping Beauty setting her spindle on fire. The blood-red princes, hunters, men who rescued them, who saved their lives, gone. It's like Everboys never existed, whispered Agatha. Maybe the schoolmaster killed them all, whispered Sophie. She suddenly heard soft tinkling and twirled to see 3 glowing blue butterflies peeking from behind the wall. They caught her looking and with a high-pitched meep, ducked and disappeared. What is that? Agatha said, glancing back. Hurry, Professor Dovey scolded, and the 2 girls scampered to follow, stooping past the laundry where 2 7-foot floating nymphs scrubbed sudsy blue bodices through the
Say that 7 times fast.
Scrubbed
Right.
sudsy blue bodices through the supper hall, where enchanted pots strewn saffron rice and lentil soup, and past the Valor common room to the rear stairwell. Exhausted and arching from their tournaments in the woods, Sophie and Agatha tried to keep up, but Professor Dovey was sprier than she looked. Where are we going? Agatha panted. To the only other person who can keep you alive, her fairy godmother shot back, busting her up the stairs. Sophie and Agatha instantly ran faster, up 5 long flights to the lone white door on the 6th
Go
floor.
team, go!
Yeah.
Professor Sadler's office? Agatha puffed, but he's dead. Professor Dovey ran her fingers over the raised blue dots on the former history teacher's door. It sprung open without a sound, and Sophie and Agatha scrambled in behind her. A thin woman stood at the window, long black braid dangling over the back of her pointed-shouldered purple gown. Did anyone see you? No, said Professor Dovey. Lady Lesso spun to Sophie and Agatha, violet eyes flashing. Then it's time they learn what they've done.
Uh-oh.
We did this, Agatha blurted. But we weren't even here! Sophie turned between the Dean of Evil at the window and the Dean of Good at Professor Sadler's old office, overflowing with open books. Lady Lesso glowered at the dirt-smudged faces. In this world, actions have consequences. Endings have consequences. But our fairy tale ended happily, Sophie said. Professor Dovey let out a groan. Why didn't you tell us how it ended? Lady Lesso sneered, blue veins throbbing. We killed the schoolmaster and solved his riddle, Sophie said. That's how Sophie and I went home, said Agatha. Clarissa, show them how it really ends, Lady Lesso growled. Professor Dovey flung a book across the desk. It was heavy and thick and bound with a brown sheepskin and splattered with mud. Agatha opened to the first soggy page. Black calligraphy, slightly smeared, spilled across the fresh parchment. The Tale of Sophie and Agatha. Sophie turned the page to the richly colored painting of her and Agatha standing before the schoolmaster. Once upon a time, the script read below, there were 2 girls. Agatha remembered the line. The historian had written to the start of their fairy tale when they broke into the schoolmaster's tower. Flipping the book's pages, Agatha saw her and Sophie's story unfold in a bright sweep of paintings. Sophie trying to win Tedros' kiss, Agatha saving Tedros' life in a brutal attack, Agatha and Tedros falling in love, Sophie transforming into a vengeful witch, the schoolmaster stabbing Sophie, Agatha reviving her with love's kiss, and the very last page, a dazzling vision of Tedros desperately reaching for Agatha as she and Sophie disappeared. 3 words beneath the close of their story. They were gone.
So they didn't kill him.
No,
No. They killed the bad guy, but Tedros, the prince, was reaching for his princess as she vanished.
And they
So
were
now-
gone.
Yep.
Agatha felt tears rise, soaking in all the pain and love she and Sophie had shared to get home. It's the perfect fairy tale, Sophie said, meeting Agatha's eyes with a choked-up smile. They turned to the teachers, who looked deathly grim. It's not over, said Lady Lesso. The girls peered down at the book, confused. Their grimy hands lifted lifted the last page, and they saw there was something on the other side. A painting of Tedros, back turned, walking into dark fog all alone. And Sophie and Agatha lived happily ever after, for girls don't need princes for love a call. No, they don't need princes in fairy tales at all. This one's from Maidenville, but you can find it everywhere, anywhere really. They're even telling it in the Netherwood. Sophie and Agatha raised their heads to Professor Dovey, frowning over the messy desk. It's the only story anyone wants to hear. Now the girls saw that all the open books weren't there by accident. Each book on the desk was spread to the last page. Some were in oil paintings, some in watercolor, some in charcoal and ink. Some were in a language the girls didn't know, and the other in scripts they didn't. But in the end, the version of the tale of Sophie and Agatha the same way, Tedros alone and unneeded, slumping into the darkness. Goodness, all this gloom because we're popular? Sophie said. You can't be surprised now. Snow White and Cinderella are sweet and all, but who wants them when you can have me? She turned to Agatha for support, but her best friend was staring out the window. Aggie? Agatha didn't answer. Slowly, she approached the window, and Lady Lessa stepped aside without a word. At Sadler's desk, Professor Dovey held her breath. From the steep window, Agatha looked down at the blue forest, the enchanted training ground for good and evil, sprawled in an array of hues behind the school. It was as it always was, quiet and thriving beneath the autumn chill, neatly fenced by spiked golden gates. The sounds were coming from beyond the gates. At first, she thought they were dead leaves, swathing the endless forest in a tawny brown and orange beneath striped crooked trees. Then she looked closer and saw they were men. Thousands of men were crammed into the blue forest, gates in a filthy, homeless camp, hunched around fires like miserable peasants. She couldn't see faces, but she glimpsed scraggly beards, blackened cheeks, mothing breeches, and bony legs, ripped coats and sashes with gleaming crests.
What?
They weren't peasants, they were princes, Sophie gasped.
They're like in an encampment,
yeah, because they don't need them anymore. So where there's no place for them, so we're just gonna throw them into a little hobo camp and call it a day. Princes, Sophie gasped, looking out behind her. It's her! A voice screamed. Screamed from the crowd.
Your acting was a little too on point there.
A little bit. Need some water.
Just a little bit.
Ooh.
And now
That was a little extra.
Gosh.
It's her! The
brief
voice.
intermission. Take two.
Okay.
After she doesn't die. Alright. Princes! Sophie gasped, looking out behind her. It's her! A voice screamed from the crowd. Heads swung to the tower window. It's the witch! All at once, a savage mob rushed the forest gates. Death to Sophie! Kill her! Kill the witch!
Oh, great.
Here we go again.
So now we know where all the arrows were coming from. The men fired arrows and catapulted stones at the tower.
Now we know.
Hey!
Now we know.
So Tedros definitely blames Sophie for taking away his princess.
Actually, all the men knew.
Yes.
But the weapons instantly vanished into the enchanted shield, bubbly and violet tinged, that appeared over the school gates. As the crowd roared and swung pickets, mounted with the same wanted signs the girl had seen in the woods, an intrepid prince leapt onto the spiked gates. The golden metal magically sizzled, and he let go in shock, impaling on the spikes below. Sophie spun in horror. How can those be princes? She cried. How can those be princes? Lady Lessa mimicked. Those princes are there because of you. Agatha and Sophie gaped at each other. We don't understand, Agatha sputtered. Professor Dovey ground her teeth. The only time Agatha had seen her fairy godmother as furious is when she had disobeyed her teacher her first year and almost burned down the castle. Think, Agatha.
Good
Once
times.
upon a time you believed yourself an
times.
ugly witch, but instead you were destined to become a princess. To find an ever after, the most coveted prince in the land. It had to have been Good's greatest victory, a restoration of all the values we lost. Kill the schoolmaster, send your evil friend home safe, and stay here with Tedros forever, as his future queen. All you had to do was take his hand before you disappeared, and that would have been the correct fairy tale, but instead, she looked daggers at Sophie. You chose her. And rightly so, Sophie reposited. If you knew Agatha
bad
at
blood.
all, you knew she could never give me up for some boy. She whirled to her friend, knowing this time Agatha would defend her, but again, Agatha didn't. She just gulped and stared at her muddy clumps. What happened after we left? Agatha said. The eviction. The girls turned to Lady Lesso, who shuddered at the memory. After your kiss, students tried to return to their schools, but the Evil Towers rejected the Never Girls. 60 girls flung through the windows into the bay. From the stairs, classrooms, beds, toilets, common rooms, they tried to go back, but the evil gates barred their entry. All the Never Girls fled to Good for sanctuary, and all the Ever Girls welcomed them, inspired by your happy ending. As soon as they arrived, the Good Towers evicted the Ever Boys just as rudely. Professor Dovey went on. The moment the boys were gone, the castle magically changed into what it is now. The portraits removed, murals repainted, forenses recarved, as if mirroring your tale. The school for good had become the school for girls, and indeed the glittering crests over her and Lady Lesso's hearts, once silver swans, were now sparkling blue butterflies. Agatha shook her head, confused. But those aren't ever boys from school, she pointed out the window. Those are real princes. What happened here happened everywhere in the endless woods, Professor Dovey said gravely. As your story spread like a plague and the princesses imagined a world without princes, the men were magically ejected from their castles and left homeless. They appealed to witches to break the curse, but they too had heard of the tale of Sophie and Agatha. Stirred by the power of your bond, witches joined forces with the princesses and took control of the kingdoms. Witches and princesses are friends? Sophie said in disbelief. No one thought it would be possible until your fairy tale, said Professor Dovey, and now it is men and women who are enemies. Agatha thought back to the flower ground and the twittering women in groups, some pretty and cheerful, some homely and queer, and a few scraggly, lonely males. But we don't want the princes homeless, Agatha cried. We don't want them to be enemies. We certainly don't want them to smell, murmured Sophie. You made princes irrelevant, Lady Lesso retorted. You made them impotent. You made them obsolete. And now you've made them turn to a new leader for revenge. The girls followed their eyes to the sea of wanted signs hoisted outside of the gates, demanding Sophie's head at the orders of the leader. The schoolmaster, Sophie broke in. We saw him.
So I just can't help but notice, but earlier in this book was when Agatha's mom mentioned basically the reverse, where women were blamed for everything in the mortal world. And so basically if you didn't marry and have kids, you were a witch. And so now that men are becoming irrelevant, it's like total gender swapped.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just saying.
The schoolmaster, Sophie broke in. We saw him. Did you now, Lady Lesso sneered. He's in the evil castle. We have to kill him. Sophie swiveled to Agatha. Tell her. Agatha ignored the fluttering in her stomach, but he couldn't have lived, she said almost to herself. She looked up. You were there too, professors. All of you saw him die. Indeed, said Professor Dovey, but that doesn't mean he isn't replaced. Replaced? The girls blurted. Naturally, Lady Lesso and I believed ourselves the best candidates, Professor Dovey said, smoothing her gown's beetle wings. Homeless and hated, the princes needed leaders they could trust. We assured them the tale of Sophie and Agatha was closed forever. Under our protection, the historian would restore boys and girls to balance, as it did good and evil. But as we tried to bridge this peace between boys and girls, her face dimmed. Something odd happened. He thrust to the last page of the fairy tale and waited for the girls to say something. They drew Tedros taller than he is, Sophie suggested. Isn't something missing? The dean moaned. Agatha remembered the storybook under her bed. The wedded princess and the prince. The end, she said. Why didn't it say the end? Professor Dovey glared at her and slowly lifted the book to the light. Beneath the last line of the fairy tale, the two girls could see the faded ink spelling those very two words before they had been erased. What happened? Sophie breathed. It seems like your book has been reopened, Professor Dovey said, guiding her eyes to all the versions of their story splayed across the desk. The end had disappeared off of each of them, too. Sophie rifled through the pile. But how can we lose a happy ending? Because one of you wished for a different one, Lady Lesso lashed, not looking at her. One of you wanted a new ever after, and now one of you has to put our school on the brink of war. That's ludicrous, Sophie huffed. I know I wanted to be a princess, but I can't, can I? I saw what this place did to me, and I have no desire to spend any more time in it. Even if Galveston smells like a horse bottom, and has no endurable men, so if I didn't make the wish, then surely it was a mistake. But now she saw Lady Lesso was staring at, and her cheeks lost blood. Sophie slowly turned to her friend, shadowed in a corner. Aggie, at the Hollow, you said you make a... That's not what you meant, right? Agatha couldn't look at her. Sophie's hands were trembling. Aggie, tell me that's not what you meant. Agatha tried to find the words, something to redeem herself. All of this, Sophie gasped, everything that happened is because of you? Agatha burned scarlet. She spun to Lady Lesso. How do I fix it? How do I get Sophie home safe? The evil teacher let the question dangle as she inspected her sharp red nails. It's simple, she said, finally lifting her head. You must wish to end with each other at the same time. Wish for each other and only each other, and the historian will write the end once more. And we'll leave the woods, Agatha pressed. Never to be hunted again, as long as your wish is true. Agatha let out a rush of hair. We can fix it! She turned to Sophie. Let's get our ending back. The village won't hunt us. Sophie backed away. What ending did you want? Don't do this, Agatha said. What else could you possibly want? Sophie demanded. It was a mistake, Sophie. Answer me. Sophie, please. Sophie locked her gaze. What did you wish for? We can't fix this now, Agatha begged. I'm afraid you can't. Both girls turned. The historian must write the end to seal their wish, said Professor Dovey, and in that moment it is unable. What do you mean? Agatha flushed angrily. Where is it? Where it always is, Lady Lesso scowled back, with the schoolmaster. Huh? Agatha said. But you said he was replace the flutter in her heart, the face she couldn't see. Agatha slowly looked up. Who doesn't want your new ending sealed? Lady Lesso purred. Who wants a new ending to your fairy tale?
Tedros.
She held up the story's last page. A boy walking into the fog all alone. Who heard his princess's wish? Agatha whirled to the window. Lightning exploded over the schoolmaster's tower across the bay with a whip crack of thunder, and she saw a silver-masked shadow in its flash. Golden hair, a body of muscle, a glinting sword sheathed. The sky went dark, and he was gone. Agatha felt faint. All the attacks, all the destruction. Him, Sophie whispered, crumpling against the wall. You wish for him? Agatha searched for something to say, but one look at Sophie curled up in a grubby pink heap, and she knew. There was nothing to say. How? Agatha whispered. How could he hear it? Because you wanted him to, Lady Lesso slashed, prowling towards Agatha. From the day you left, Tedros believed one day you'd call for him. From the day you left, he and his boys hunted your village, tried to cross into the woods beyond, until your wish finally opened the gates. Agatha paled, watching Lady Lesso circle her. But your prince has to make sure his princess chooses him this time. He needs insurance that you won't repeat your mistakes. So Tedros stole the historian from under your noses, knowing the schoolmaster's tower follows the pen wherever it goes. Now he'll stop the historian from writing the end to your tale until he has his new ending. Agatha's stomach went cold. What's the new ending? She rasped. Lady Lesso stared through her. Killing Sophie. Sophie slowly lifted her eyes, red and raw. Tedros believes killing Sophie will fix her fairy tale as it should have been, said Professor Dovey. The witch dies, the princess free to her prince, the story rewritten just as Agatha wished. Agatha couldn't breathe under Sophie's scorching stare. Why don't you save Tedros the trouble? Sophie hissed. Kill this witch yourself. That would solve everything, sighed Professor. That would solve everything, sighed Professor Dovey. Both girls turned. Oh dear, said the teacher. Did I say that out loud?
Someone doesn't like Sophie still.
Right.
She'll die soon enough, Lady Lesso snarled. Tedros counted on Sophie coming here for protection. Now he and his army will come to kill him. Army? Agatha blanched. He has an army?
Shit.
You've forgotten about his school, said Lady Lesso. Agatha swung her head to the window. Through the sheets of rain, they could see the red hoods skulking around Evil's towers in black leather uniforms crested with scarlet snakes and a shiny black boots. Slowly he lowered her eyes to the gate on the castle shores. Rusted iron words arched over it. The school for boys, vengeance and restitution. One wish has so many consequences, doesn't it? Lady Lissa said, leering at Agatha. Tedros has promised whoever kills Sophie himself, half of his father's treasure is the reward. Needless to say, both the Ever and Never boys took up the challenge. As did all the princes outside, Professor Dovey said, watching the filthy masses swarming the gates. Tedros knows he can't attack us with just his school. Our teachers wouldn't give up Sophie without a fight. So he's using the princess to force our hand. Lady Lessa groused. I cast a shield around the perimeter of both schools to keep them out. But if the princes get through, Tedros will have enough men to storm our castle and kill Sophie. Agatha stared at the red fortress, still numb. The story ends in the boys' school. Either free it and get Sophie home alive, or kiss Tedros before he kills her. Professor Dovey met Agatha's shocked eyes.
Oh my God.
Kiss your prince and mean it, and you'll stay here with him ever after. Sophie will be gone from your story forever and vanished home. Home alone? Sophie gasped as if she'd been shot. Galvadon alone? Well, she gets him? Those are the two endings that can prevent a war, Professor Dovey said.
My God.
The only sound in the room was the echo of murderous princes. Sophie gave Agatha a horrible look and curled back into a ball. Tedros, Agatha gritted. How could she wish for a boy who would take love this far? How could she wish for a boy who'd kill her best friend? Her old witchy self would never have let this happen. Third option, she said, storming to the door. Tell Tedros he's a delusional ass.
Yay, go
Yeah.
Agatha.
No! Agatha turned. You wish for him, Sophie spat, blotched with rage, and you want me to trust you two alone? Agatha cowered. Sophie looked even more like a witch than she did in the graveyard. I won't intervene on your lover's quarrel, but I suggest Agatha make her choice soon, Lady Lessa snapped. Once Tedros breaks the princess through the shield, all of our lives will be in danger. We'll hide you and Sophie in the Blue Forest until you have a plan. Professor Dovey said to Agatha, pulling out a ring of keys. None of the girls can know you've come. Agatha looked up, dazed. Why not? Because unlike your two teachers, you think this is the best thing that's ever happened, said a honey-smooth voice. The two professors and two girls... Just keep going. The two girls turned to see the tall, ravishing woman push through the door, milky smooth and full-blossomed in a teacher's electric blue dress, decorated with a pattern of butterflies. She had a waterfall of chestnut hair to her mid-back, forest green eyes under thick dark brows, a luscious pink mouth, and a gap between her two shiny front teeth.
Nice. Nice.
My brother's office, she said, biting her bee-stung lips. I wasn't aware it was where we held secret meetings. It's the only place we can't be overheard, Lady Lessa returned, her voice oddly tentative. Well, I do believe I should have been alerted to your honored guests, the woman said, breathing breathily, turning to Sophie and Agatha. After all, they're the reason this magnificent school exists. The two girls gawped at her. We've been meticulously preparing for your arrival, said the stranger, knitting her arched brows, and we nearly may have missed it. She flashed a glare at the two teachers. Agatha shook her head. But how did you know where we were coming? Goodness, you two look frightful, the woman said, magically restoring their faces and dresses with her finger. Only Sophie's dress magically lost its pink color, too, and drained to a blank white. Sophie grabbed the hem. What happened to my... Come, girls, the woman sashayed for the door. We've put your books and schedules in your room. Schedules? Professor W. launched to her feet. You're not thinking of them going to class, Evelyn. The woman twirled. As long as they're in my school, they will attend class and abide by the rules, which includes staying in their schools at all times. Surely you don't object to the rules. Sophie and Agatha waited for the professors to indeed object, but Debbie and Lesso were curiously quiet, eyes on a pair of blue butterflies that had settled on the tips of their noses. I see our former deans neglected to inform you that the most important change to our new school, the stranger said, smiling at the girls. Evelyn Sadler, Dean of the School for Girls. Sorry for the hurry. I don't want to keep everyone waiting. Follow me, please. She turned and swept through the door. Sophie saw the two butterflies land on their matching dresses and vanish magically into the pattern. She let out a breath of surprise. Keep who waiting? As more butterflies fell in her dress, the beautiful woman didn't look back. Your army, she said as she listened to the entire conversation. So we have an army of girls and we have an army of boys.
There we go.
Like a note.
Off to war.
Here we go.
Actually, they don't have guns. They have swords. That's right.
That's true.
Glistening swords.
Give me a bow and arrow.
Yes,
That's what
bow
I'd
and
rather
arrows,
have.
please.
Me too. Bow and arrow. Boom.
Archery. I choose archery.
And a little dagger, just in case somebody gets too close.
Steps in.
All right, guys, we are freezing.
So we're gonna go. So thank you for watching our book club today.
Yes. We want to squeeze out another chapter for you.
We will be doing the giveaway soon. We did hit over 100 subscribers. Please be following our Instagram. We are going to post the giveaway on there. So please be following on there. And we hope to see you soon. Oh, and it's fun and friends.
Fun and friends on our Instagram. Friends. Okay.
Doggies have fur.
Yeah.
Yes.
Follow us there so you can be a part of our contest because we can't wait to give away the prize for our winner. So follow us there and we'll give you instructions moving on. Anyways, we're cold. We're gonna go. Bye.